everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch,
Rob Jarrell,
and today we're going to recap this past Saturday's bout for pound supremacy, in which we had Vasyl Lomachenko defending his WBO title versus Guillermo Rigondeaux, and we're also going to preview this Saturday's fight for a portion of the middleweight title involving David Lemieux and Billy Joe Saunders. So let's get into the talk of the boxing world right now, which is the birth of Mas-Chenko and his stoppage of Guillermo Rigondeaux. So in our preview video, we listed out, the skills of both guys and how this fight would be more of a thinking man's fight, and it would be decided on how those intangibles will work with each other for each guy to use his positives to negate the other guy's positives. And that is what we got. We thought that Lomachenko would win based on his activity level and his just ability to get off before Rigondeaux, which is what we got for about, 6 rounds?
Mm-hmm.
And then Rigondeaux quits on the stool, which was quite baffling. We'll get into that as we go into what happened in the few rounds of action that we got. Take it away, Rob.
Okay, so as we know, this fight was pretty much made off a bunch of vitriol, which is fine as long as we get the fight.
Yeah.
But what we thought would be a very interesting and possibly even exciting fight between two guys who probably should have fought a few years ago was pretty lackluster. Now we saw what Rigondeaux was doing as in trying to stop that walkover left hand and trying to stop the activity and keep Lomachenko from turning him, which worked in that first round. He was able to negate the movement of Lomachenko as he tried to turn, tried to walk around Rigondeaux and hit him from different angles. And you could tell visibly that Lomachenko was confused on what he should do.
Yeah. And what he did do was genius. So we talked about, like Rob said, we'll do a quick explanation one more time of what Rigondeaux was trying to do and then what Lomachenko did to adjust to that and stop him from doing what he wanted to do. So if Rob is Lomachenko and I'm Rigondeaux, when he tried to step around, Rigondeaux would step into him and meet him shoulder to shoulder and stop that turn from happening. And what he wanted to do was either bring his left hand over the top like that or right hand over the top like that to catch Lomachenko as he tried to disengage. So in the first round, he was able to do so. He landed a few clean punches. Some people gave him that round, some people didn't, because it was just so little to work with as far as landed punches. Like we said, this one was going to be fought in the mind. Like, where can I get my best shots off and just get shots off, period, because clean shots were at a premium considering the skill level of both guys, and that was on display. Unfortunately, some of the things that we've seen in Rigondeaux that a lot of the detractors don't like from him ended up biting him in the butt. One was his lack of fluidity in his punches. Like, he really is very, very selective with his punches. So as Lomachenko made his adjustments and started upping his activity, Rigondeaux was left completely handcuffed. So what was the adjustment that Lomachenko made that stopped Rigondeaux from being able to implement his game plan? Here it is. Very simple. So now Rob's going to be Rigondeaux, I'm going to be Lomachenko. So as I try to step over this way and Rigondeaux comes into my chest, boom, head control. You can't go anywhere. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, that's kind of illegal. But it's what you would call incidental contact. If we come into each other and make contact, which is most likely inevitable when you're in a boxing match, you're going to collide a few times. So especially when you have someone like Rigondeaux who likes to hold. So if he's going to hold on his terms, you want to take those terms away from him. So when Rigondeaux went in the hole and Lomachenko grabbed his head, it would stop the action. And because he was so much bigger than him, it completely negated what Rigondeaux wanted to do. And unfortunately, for some reason, he had no other answer. So Lomachenko was able to start using that hand speed advantage that he had, which was surprisingly fast because Lomachenko has very fast hands, but so does Rigondeaux. He's like a cobra with his counters. But there was a big speed difference there. Lomachenko was able to see his punches coming outside of the first round, and he didn't get much landed on him after that. Now, to Rigondeaux's credit, there wasn't a lot landed on himself either, but he had nothing in return to make Lomachenko pay for not being able to land, or ever getting him out of position to the point where he could land something that maybe he didn't see. Lomachenko was able to, even though he was in front of Rigondeaux the whole time, he was able to beat him to the punch and use enough activity to completely negate Rigondeaux's offense altogether.
Yeah, and a lot of the times, Rigondeaux did stop him in his tracks. He did underhook him quite a few times just to kind of keep him from moving around him and hit him in different angles, which could be dirty because he was docked a point in the 4th or 5th round.
It's the 5th, I believe.
In the 5th round. And that's fine. It's going to be some dirtiness in fighting, in boxing. But it only makes sense if it leads to something else.
Right, and this was an intentional delay of the action, which makes it a foul.
Now, he could have done himself some favors. Now, granted, again, his head being pushed down, he would stay low, trying to dodge a lot of Lomachenko's punches. And what Lomachenko did is he never stopped punching. He let his activity stay over. There might have not been a lot of punches of consequence.
Right.
But it was constant activity. He would still touch him up.
Right.
He got dirtier with him. I think he hit Rigondeaux on the break. Rigondeaux slipped a really good right hand, but he slipped one right hand. Lomachenko and stayed in position, and Lomachenko just answered back with, I think, 2 or 3 punches of his own, which I think really kind of woke him up and was like, hey, I can't stay in here too long, so he was hesitant.
Right.
And
he also hit him after the bell at the end of one of the rounds.
And after the bell, so
he said, I ain't gonna play that sucker stuff.
If that roughhousing, if you're gonna do it, it has to lead to something.
Right.
And I think he could have did himself some favors on the inside to kind of, now granted we knew he wanted to throw the right hand and the left hand over the top. I watched a lot of boxing this weekend and I saw a lot of infighting, some roughhousing, and one of the things that that Rigondeaux never took advantage of was the uppercut on the inside when he did stop Lomachenko in his tracks. It's not going to land every time, and you might have your own offense a little smothered, but had he practiced that in his workouts, it might have been able to set Lomachenko up, make it interesting, maybe not been so taken out of the fight mid-round.
Yeah, that and going downstairs to the body.
Yeah.
Which both fighters did very little of. But to Lomachenko's credit, he did start using an uppercut. Rigondeaux would do the high guard, he'd start bending forward, Lomachenko rip a few uppercuts, and he was doing it in succession, not just one at a time. Like we were saying, that activity was keeping Rigondeaux handcuffed and not giving many opportunities for counter punches from Rigondeaux. But if, like we said earlier, when they got in close, you just throw little small uppercuts here to the body when the other guy's trying to grab you, or if he started pushing your head down, you know, throw a little bit over the top just to be like, hey, I'm still going to try to hit you. But Rigondeaux wasn't doing that. He was content with grabbing him and stopping the action and trying to get back to the outside.
And again, if you're going to use that those dirty tactics on the inside, make sure you use it all the way. Stop the action, create space with your forearm. A lot of people are going to say, you can't do that, that's dirty. Screw that. If you want to get a punch off, until they say no, don't do that, do that shit. So you're stopping the action, Boom. A lot of people, I've seen it all weekend, guys fighting on the inside. Boom. How much does that one forearm gives enough space here, or move your arm, keep coming up?
Yeah, so when you get that incidental contact, you have to create space. Don't wait for the ref to break you up. Create that space, because if your hands are free, they're going to let you work. And you did hear the ref a few times say, hands are free, hands are free. Mm-hmm. So he was saying, create space and throw some punches, or I'm going to stop it. And Rigondeaux just wanted to stop it. Whereas Lomachenko did try to rip him off a few times, and it worked a couple times, but not enough to where he could keep a sustained attack. So they would end up breaking the action, they'd reset, but he was able to beat Rigondeaux to the punch on the outside, so he really had no answers as of what to do. He claims he bruised his hand at some point, or he said he broke it at the time. It was revealed that it was like a bruise. And speaking from someone who has had that happen to them, it's pretty painful, but it's something that you could manage at the same time. Like, I used to bruise my thumb all the time on my left hand, because I, like early on in my fight training and when I would fight amateur, because I didn't know how to close my fist all the way. So I would sometimes jab people and hit my thumb, and I really wouldn't feel it until like afterwards, like after all the adrenaline had worn down. But when you're dealing with somebody like Rigondeaux, who's had like 400-something amateur fights, who's been at the top level for many years, he doesn't have that super adrenaline dump that someone like me, who's like a young teenager, just starting off in the sport, would have, to where I won't feel it until afterwards. He's calm, collected, and taking it account into everything that's going on, so he probably knew it immediately. He's like, hey, something's wrong. Whenever it happened, maybe in one of those like infighting exchanges, he hit an elbow or a shoulder or something like that we missed, and whatever. It's not a good look for him. I think he just committed career suicide. It was already hard for him to get fights. He fought like 3 rounds in the last 2-3 years. He has been trashed by every promoter that has tried to promote him. The fans are not fond of him. And now to quit in the biggest match of your career, good luck getting on TV again, if you even get any kind of fight. And that's really it that I got for Rigondeaux. What's next for Lomachenko? What you think, Rob?
Well, everyone's talking about him fighting Mikey Garcia. People at 135. He's got a pretty big frame. I think he's about 5'8", which is a really good height for anywhere from 130 to 140. Yeah. He seems that he can grow a little bit more, because he was definitely heavier than Lomachenko in this fight.
You mean Rigondeaux?
I mean Rigondeaux in this fight. So you still have options at 130. You still have Gamboa, who beat Sosa. You still have Miguel Burchell. You still have
who's the guy that just beat Orlando Salido?
Mickey Roman. You still got Alberto Machado.
Gervonta Davis.
Gervonta Davis.
And I think he'd be favored against all of those guys, but they are still there.
But 135 is, again, I never really thought he had any problems. He was going to have too many problems with guys at 130. It's just when you get to that 135 where you start to see the size difference. I mean, you have, what's my man, that's under Broner?
Robert Easter.
Robert Easter, who's 5'11".
He's humongous, yeah.
And you have Jorge Linares, who they're talking about a fight with. Those two guys are going to be difficult. And you have Mikey Garcia, who has been putting hands on people 135 to 140.
Yeah.
And
in that fight, and Lomachenko himself said this, I would be up against it like Rigondeaux was up against it against me. Like, he came up 2 divisions. He's old as crap. And it's not that big of a deal, even though I still think it is a big of a deal, because this was one of the best fighters of this generation. He was one of the only other 2-time gold medalists to be a world champ and compete. So this win, while it may not have been the most aesthetically pleasing, it's still impressive. It wasn't impressive as far as like, I know people saying like he destroyed him and blah. Pump your brakes on that. It was a workman-like performance where he did what he had to do. He made the adjustments, and while he didn't look as sensational as he usually does, he still did what he needed to do to win.
And y'all just talking about him fighting Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford just moved up to a division that was another 7 pounds higher. Stop. That's a 17-pound difference in weight against a guy who's supremely skilled, if not equally skilled, to Lomachenko. Stop.
Yeah, I mean, y'all asking too much of the guy, really. Like, and it's probably like the Lomachenko haters who are like, because like he's starting to get those extreme fan bases now. It's like people that he can do no wrong and he walks on water. And it's people that like he's like so overrated that like I don't understand why people like him. And we're somewhere around here. This guy has some supreme talent. This guy's really good.
Easily top 5. He might have leapfrogged everyone to be the number 1 pound for pound right now. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like it might not have been the most eye-pleasing, sensational win, but like I said, these were the top guys as far as eyeball skill levels that you saw in the ring. So personally, I now have Lomachenko at number 1 in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if people don't, that's their opinion as well, because we know that's a subjective thing. But in my eyes, I think skill level, what I've seen and what he's done, he's number 1. That's kind of like when you had Mayweather and Pacquiao, where people expecting this big firework type of performance from these guys, and Mayweather goes out there and technically dismantles him. And people are like, oh, this is boring. But you don't understand what's going on in the ring for him to have to be able to do that. That's the same thing we got with Lomachenko and Rigondeaux. Like, the adjustments that he had to make, the difficulty he had in just landing punches where he was just putting hands on everybody else, and he's like itching and scraping for punches in this match. That's impressive. Now, the cheerleaders and the pom-poms that we got in the pre-fight build-up from ESPN and the commentators may have been a bit much. They made Jim Lampley look a little tame.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah, but when you consider the skill level of Rigondeaux, like I said, it wasn't the most sensational performance, but at the same time, he was able to handcuff one of the most skilled guys that have ever stepped in a boxing ring. So you got to give him credit for it.
And in saying that, we hope you stuck through this far. We're going to go into the preview of Billy Joe Saunders versus Dave Lemieux.
Yeah. So in this one, we've got, what is it? Is it WBO middleweight title?
Yes.
So Saunders has had this belt for a while. He's been running his mouth about fighting some of the bigger names, but ends up fighting other people. We don't like to get into, well, I don't like to really get into like all the business he says, she says stuff. So he's in the ring with David Lemieux. And he's in there with a guy who you know what he's coming to do. He's coming to take your head off. He's gotten better. He can jab a little bit more. He is a little bit better with conserving his battery. But you still know what he's going to do. He's going to come in there. He's going to try to land that left hook on you. His right hand ain't bad either. But he's coming to take your head off. So the question is, can Saunders stop him from taking his head off? What do you think?
Okay, so Saunders is a pretty measured guy. He doesn't have all the top attributes as far as athleticism, hand speed, strength, power. But that's not to say he is not without skill. He is still undefeated. He still has some quality names on his record. Andy Lee, Chris Eubank Jr., Willie Monroe, but we still haven't seen him take on those top 10 type fighters, except maybe Andy Lee at the time. He's very measured. He likes to encroach on space, going backward and forward. Not much lateral movement, but the other thing is he hasn't really fought anyone with the kind of relentless pressure that David Lemieux brings. And David Lemieux is kind of one of those guys that is always hungry to get a belt and get that next fight. Ever since the Golovkin fight, he really didn't give up. I think he had to have the fight beat out of him.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot, taking punches from Golovkin. And he was still coming until they were like, you know what, we can't let you keep doing this.
And it's crazy because Golovkin is kind of that guy that will kind of unnecessarily take some punishment. He was avoiding Dave Lemieux's punches. That is the one guy between him and Danny Jacobs. Those are two guys that he actively tried to avoid the punches. Canelo, great hand speed, somewhat tried to avoid the punches.
But not like with those guys.
No, he was like, I think he got hit with one. It was like, the hell with this. I'm just gonna keep moving, head movement. He ain't hitting me, I'm hitting him. That's the kind of fight we're gonna fight.
Yeah, he was like, wait a minute, I'm a gold medalist, so I'm gonna use my skills.
Now, while I think Billy Joe Saunders being taller, having longer reach Lemieux will help him in the long run if he can stay on the outside, but he's got to use some kind of lateral movement. If he just moves back and gets against those ropes, there's nothing.
It's gonna get ugly.
And I believe Lemieux knocked out Curtis Stevens when he was against the ropes because he was able to throw a counter left hook. Was it a counter left hook? I think it was a counter left hook where he punched with Curtis Stevens. So Billy Joe Saunders definitely can't stay in there because when he throws a punch, oh, you better believe there's going to be some return fire.
Yeah, and so from what I've seen of Saunders so far, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do it. Now, he'll have his chin tested, he'll have his heart tested, and that's what we're looking to see. Can he take the thunderous shots of Lemieux and keep on coming? Or keep on sticking to his game plan of trying to keep Lemieux at bay. I'm not sure if he can. So I'm thinking Lemieux gets to him maybe 5 to 7 rounds. That's where I'm going with it. If he doesn't get to him within 5 or 7 rounds, I think Saunders can win like a very close, possibly controversial decision.
Saunders has been doing enough to get the decisions. He got it versus Moreau, who I think he handled pretty well. He had got was it a unanimous decision against Andy Lee?
No, I think it was a split. Oh no, it was split against Eubank.
It was a split against Eubank. It was a majority decision versus Lee, and to be honest, I'm not even sure he deserved that win versus Artur Akakov. I think that's his name. But yeah, that was a really hard fought match. What he's got to do, he's got to stop Lemieux's momentum as best he can. Lateral movement, stiff jab, and make him pay once he gets on the inside. But he's got a lot of pressure that's going to be coming down on him. And I think Lemieux has been angling for this fight for a really long time.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens Saturday. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up. Leave your thoughts on the fights down below. If you haven't, hit the subscribe button so you get the rest of our updates. We'll be getting back in the gym really soon. Once I get all those jobs out of the way, and I can just focus on training and one job, we can get back in the gym, do some technical toolbox. So that'll be coming up pretty soon. If you have any questions, you can hit us up. We'll put you in the mailbag. Hit us up on the social media. All those links are down below. And we'll see you guys in the recap of Saunders and Lemieux. So until then, fight on.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane, I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.